Chapter 1. New York, December 2005. People start over all the time. Why can't I? My friend Chanel's a life coach here in New York. She's one of the best. She even has her own column in the New Yorker. Chanel has generously offered to help me. To be honest, I really think I'm beyond help. 11 months ago, my husband John left me for a younger woman, and now they're having a baby. A baby! My life is a walking cliché. I'm still feeling lost, betrayed, and empty. And when Chanel turns up at my place unexpectedly, she tells me she thinks I have abandonment issues. No kidding. It's 3 p.m. on Sunday, and I'm still in my pajamas, sprawled out on the sofa, devouring romance novels. "What on earth are you reading, Ruby?" she says, screwing up her nose. She picks up several paperbacks from the stack beside the sofa. The Virgin Bride? As if. Husband for hire? Why bother? Why on earth are you feeding your head with this stuff? Princess Diana read Barbara Cartland novels, and she married a prince, I say, crossing my arms defensively. Yes, and how did that work out for her? Chanel asks. With my left foot, I carefully slip Joan Lust's recent novella, Cuddle Up with the Prince, under the sofa. Besides, they're not mine, I lie. They're Millie's. I figured seeing as I'm not getting any romance, I may as well read about people who are. These aren't your daughters, Chanel says, tossing the books back on the sofa. J.K. Rowling is more her bag. You'd be better off reading books about wizards and magic than you would this stuff. People who can date and people who can't write about it, she says dismissively. Reading these fairy tales is not going to help. I want to tell her that reading love stories helps hugely, that reading romance makes me feel less lonely, that reading romance lets me escape, that reading romance gives me hope, but I don't bother. The truth is, you fear abandonment, and this explains your reluctance to start dating again, Chanel continues. Think, Meghan Markle. I stare at her blankly. What would her life be like if she clung on to her deadbeat ex? Crap, I say. Exactly. It's time you went looking for a new husband, Chanel says when I confess I haven't been out for months. Well, that's not strictly true, of course. Every weekday I go to my job in a towering office on Fifth Avenue where I work as a trainee public relations advisor for the Miss American pageant. Believe me, there's a lot of work to do as we work to rebrand the organization. But I love that finally women are being appraised on more than big boobs and hairspray, and after the mass exodus of lewd members of the leadership team, finally women are running the show. I have other non-paid jobs too, like walking my dog Snouts in Central Park and running Millie, my 15-year-old daughter, around. I don't have time, I lie. Besides, I'm quite happy sitting here at home, honestly. I protest, picking the anchovies off last night's pizza. Nonsense, Chanel snaps as she brushes the dog hair from her expensive skirt. Every woman needs a man, especially you, Ruby. I mumble through a mouthful of cold pizza, but I'm enjoying my spare time, reading books, doing what I want, not having to race to get my makeup on before my husband got up and saw the real me. You don't care what I look like, though, do you, Snouts? I say, reaching down and patting the Dalmatian cross I rescued from death row. Snouts looks up at me adoringly. I'm lying, of course. The truth is I'm miserable. I miss my husband. I shouldn't after what he did, but I do. I miss being married. I miss having someone make decisions with me and dealing with things I don't want to, like taking the rubbish out and doing our accounts. Actually, I miss sex the most. We had great sex, even after 18 years and 13 days. What if I never have sex again? That's my biggest fear. I don't know how I would even begin to meet a man, let alone have sex with a stranger. Easy when you know how, Chanel says. Not only am I the queen of dating, but in my professional role I've helped masses of women reclaim their sexual freedom. I wish I had her self-esteem, I think, as I look at her. Chanel isn't the world's greatest beauty. She's got a prominent Jewish nose that would give Barbara Streisand a run for her money. But she has charisma like Jeff Bezos has money. She only has to walk into a room and men practically trip over themselves. I've always admired the carefree way she flicks her vibrant orange hair, smiles demurely and regales men with a mix of witty banter and sexual innuendo. I don't think self-consciousness even exists in her vocabulary. She wears clothes that leave little to the imagination, though she's not exactly Twiggy. I'm voluptuous, darling, voluptuous. Men love women with curves, she says proudly. I know her real secret, though. It's her confidence. I'd do anything just to have a smidgen of it. It's hard to feel confident when your husband's done a runner. Chanel's also an expert when it comes to breaking up. From what I can remember, she's never dated any man for longer than 3 weeks, and women pay her hundreds of dollars just for an hour of her time, eagerly drinking the wisdom she dispenses and coming back for seconds. She's promised to give me her top get-over-a-breakup quick tips. I tell her plenty of people have been giving me dating advice. It's just left me confused. A guy at work told me, the best way to get over a woman is to get under another, I tell her. Chanel rolls her eyes and groans. Men have a different way of working through their grief, darling. I tend to agree. For starters, everything I've gleaned from scanning men's magazines suggests they don't have an issue having sex with strangers. I just can't imagine stripping off and being naked with anyone other than my husband, I confide. Maybe the real reason men are so untroubled is because there's a worldwide shortage of eligible men. Don't let statistics scare you, she says, when I tell her that in New York women outnumber men 3 to 1. That's not what scares me, I say. For over 18 years my husband was the only man to see me naked. We always had sex with the light off. What if I meet someone who's into, kinky stuff, like doing it with the light on, or in car parks in broad daylight? I've read about things like that. Fear clamps my stomach. God, I couldn't bear it. They'd only have to see my stretch marks and my rolled-up tummy, and they'd do a runner too. My belly still hadn't bounced back, I say, pressing my palms firmly on my stomach. In fact, the only thing it does is bounce. Chanel's finger rests on her lips as though she is savouring diplomacy. Breaking up is hard to do, Ruby. Everyone knows that. But crying over spilled milk isn't going to bring him back, she says, her voice thick with intensity. I think 18 years of marriage is a bit more than a puddle of milk, Chanel. It's a figure of speech, Ruby. Of course, I am sensitive to the fact that you've been together a long time, but to be honest, you are rather dragging out the healing process. She crosses to the shelf over the fireplace and picks up several framed pictures of Jonathan and me on our wedding day. Hanging on to happy couple photos is definitely not the way to go. Never let yesterday consume today, Ruby. Chanel strides to the mahogany sideboard at the end of the room and throws the photos in the bottom drawer. As she closes the drawer, I fight back tears. Perhaps Chanel's right. Hanging on to memories only pulls me back into a past that is no longer my future. If you can help me get over the humiliating fact that my husband abandoned me for another woman and got his PA to send me a text confirming my marriage was over, you're a miracle worker. I just can't let go. I just can't move on. You just want your old life back, Chanel says, finishing my sentence. Never gonna happen. The truth knives through me, jolting me to a stop. The text thing was pretty low, I know. I feel it, but don't worry, have faith. Life is about to get a whole lot better. I am a miracle worker, darling, she says confidently. I hear that from clients all the time. Trust me, darling, before long you'll be thanking that vixen for taking him off your plate. Somehow I doubt that. I gaze nostalgically at the mahogany sideboard, then turn to her and force a smile. Still, I'm willing to be convinced. I'm going to share a few of my miracle cures with you. Are you ready for number 1 of my hot tips? I nod enthusiastically. Chanel's passion for her work and life is infectious. I've never ever seen her down, despite the fact that life has dealt her some pretty tough cards. I knew her when she was Zelda Abramovich. She changed her name to Chanel Zest when she was 20. Chanel after her muse, Coco Chanel, she told me, and Zest to better reflect her personality. It all sounded plausible at the time, but I knew the real reason was that she wanted to emancipate herself from her past. I wouldn't mind being able to liberate myself from my entire family, but we'll get to that later. Chanel's come a long way since those troubled days. I figure if she can reinvent her life after all she's been through, then she can help me too. Start keeping a journal. It's a wonderful way to start your day, she continues enthusiastically. Early each morning, pour out your feelings onto the page, empty the horrible stuff out of your head onto paper, then write some positive intentions about how you want to feel. This will free you up and allow you to enjoy the rest of the day, I promise. Sounds wonderful, I say, nibbling my nails. I'd love to stop going over and over and over all the things that I must have done wrong to make John leave, and wondering about all the ways I could have tried to make him stay. Things like, if only I'd dressed more sexily, given him blowjobs. Chanel thrusts her hand in the air. Stop! Blowjobs don't determine a happy marriage. According to Barbara Cartland, they do, I say glumly. She says that's why Charles left Diana. Camilla is why Charles left his marriage, Chanel says firmly. Cheating spouses are why marriages end. Perhaps if I hadn't been crabby when I had my period, or been more understanding when his favourite team got thrown out of the World Cup, or if, let's be honest, Chanel, if I'd been younger. Stop with that terrible self-talk, Ruby. Do you have any idea what power your words and thoughts have over you? What are you feeling in your body right now? In my body? I look down at my chest and then my feet. All I can see is Mickey Mouse running up and down my flannel pajamas. I've got no idea. It's not saying anything to me. Should it be? Your body is your temple, Ruby. It speaks to you all the time. You just haven't been tuned into it before now. Notice what your body barometer does when you start going on and on and on and beating yourself up like that. It makes you depressed, doesn't it, darling? No wonder when you start affirming that kind of rubbish. If only, if only, if only. Start saying something kind, something loving, and see what happens. Getting rid of that processed food would help too. Screwing up her nose, Chanel picks up the remaining pizza and gives it to Snouts, who looks at it with disinterest. It's not even suitable for the dogs, she says, turning back to face me. Now tell me, right now, 5 things that are great about you. I trawl through my memory bank and draw a blank. Gosh, you'll probably think I'm a real sad sack, but I can't even think of one. You don't think I'm a lost cause, do you? Of course I don't, darling. No judgment, Ruby. It's quite normal. You wouldn't believe how often people struggle to think of anything nice to say about themselves. Do you know there's a global self-esteem virus? Why else would so many people be popping Prozac? I avoid Chanel's gaze and wonder if I should be cancelling my prescription of antidepressants. Well, there's your first bit of homework, Chanel says. Keep 2 journals, one for recording all the sad sack stuff, things like how you're feeling, times when you feel blue, angry, etc. Then get yourself a fun, funky journal. We'll call it the Passion Journal. Start collecting positive things people say about you and record things that inspire you or make you feel good. Chanel reaches into her bag and pulls out a small spiral-bound notebook. Here's your first bit of feedback. She rips out a page and hands it to me, along with her favourite citrus orange Schaefer fountain pen. Write down what I am about to say and then transfer it to your Passion Journal. You are a kind, generous, loyal, intelligent, and resilient woman. The pen crawls across the page. I feel like such a fraud. Tears bleed across my eyes as I write each word, but then I start to feel better. I hadn't realized how much I needed to hear someone say something nice about me. I stand up and give her a hug. I don't think anyone has said anything quite so nice to me in a very long time, I say. I'm sure they have, darling. But words are like photos. Unless we record positive memories, we forget them. It's amazing how memorable criticism is, though, which leads me to my next top tip for getting over a breakup fast. Learn how to meditate. Meditation is the biggest thing since gluten-free bread. I don't know, Chanel. I really don't think I could handle shaving my head, and I can't see myself wearing a yellow robe any time soon either. Don't be silly, Ruby. You don't have to go all weird and new age to meditate. Just saying some simple things over and over is enough. Like what? I ask her. Like bar, lamb, sheep. Sounds pretty weird to me, Chanel. I'm joking, silly, but the truth isn't too far away. Any word can be a mantra. Mastering the art of meditation is simply disciplining yourself to repeat the same word over and over again. By concentrating on only one thing, you can gradually silence the thousands of random thoughts that are spinning around and around in your head. Saying one thing over and over sounds easy enough. I decide to try meditation tomorrow. I'm keen to start feeling better, and Chanel must know what she's doing because she's the life coach and has qualifications coming out her ears. The next tip is fabulous, darling. I know you're going to love it. Eat loads of chocolate ice cream. She suddenly looks serious. The ice cream has to be Movenpick. I'm starting to wonder about Chanel. Her advice doesn't sound very normal, but then Chanel is quite possibly the zaniest person I know, and I do like ice cream, and Movenpick is exquisite. The next tip is in the same box as getting rid of photos, Chanel says. I brace myself. Delete lovey-dovey emails, bin the heart-wrenching texts, and burn old love letters. I bite my lip pensively. I'm a romantic at heart, and asking me to throw away my love letters is like asking Linus or baby Bop to throw away their comfort blanket. I'm not sure if I'm ready for this. Hanging on to old emails is seriously bad relationship feng shui, Chanel insists. Change the energy flow in your home, darling. Change your life. Sure would be great if all I had to do to get over Jonathan was press delete and whammo, he'd be gone, I say. Believe me, it is, Chanel says. And that, darling, that and dating and time. Of course, might I say, I think you've had quite enough time. Grieve any longer than 11 months and you'll head down the slippery slopes of depression. Believe me, that's the last thing you want. It's a steep climb once you've plummeted. Besides, you don't want Jonathan to think he's won, do you? I shake my head. Good. I can tell you, both as your friend and life coach, that there is no way I'm going to let that cheap cunt out of that breakup better than you. I suddenly feel self-conscious sitting around in my pajamas. Perhaps I am sliding toward the icy slopes of depression. I guess I can store my letters at my parents' and retrieve the emails back from the trash can if I don't feel better, I whisper tentatively. Chanel's brows furrow into a scary frown. What's the point of holding on to them? Chanel says impatiently. They're only words from the scum that left you for another woman. Ouch, that hurts, but it's true. I resolve to push delete as soon as I get to work. The next tip is a no-brainer. But you'll be surprised how frequently people don't realize how unhelpful some of their friends can be. To really move forward, it's important to surround yourself with friends who make you laugh and who will introduce you to other single men. Other than you, Chanel, I can't think of anyone. Most of my friends were Jonathan's friends, and those who have stuck with me don't laugh anymore. They're working 90-hour weeks and are so stressed out that all they do is come home and blob out in front of the telly. Gosh, now that I think of it, that's why so many of my girlfriends are like me, shagless and single. As for my married friends, well, it turns out they weren't really my friends at all. It's incredible how invitations to dinner parties dry up when you're single and dateless, darling, Chanel says. I know, and when I did go to a few, I got the distinct impression some of the women thought I was threatening. As if, to be honest, I say, I just end up feeling miserable. They're married, and I'm not. Which brings me to the next rule. Stay away from married friends. Chanel wags a manicured finger at me. And stay well away from anyone who looks even the teeniest bit like they might get married. Okay, I mumble. Definitely don't go to any weddings. You'll only get stuck on the singles table. And believe me, she says solemnly, that's dating suicide. Really? I thought that would be a great way to meet someone. Chanel lowers her chin and looks at me over the bridge of her nose. Are you kidding me? Only the desperate go to weddings on their own. Far better to buy a date than go it alone. Desired people are desirable, darling, she says, which leads nicely into tip 7. Be glad that you were loved and that you had a person in your life. Some people live their whole lives never being loved. I sniffle as tears loom again. I was glad, really glad. I was happy loving my husband. I thought he'd be in my life forever. Don't be silly, Ruby. That's irrational, she says, handing me a tissue. Nothing lasts forever. But, she says, her voice softening, tip 8 is relevant here. Give it time. Grief does have its own sense of timing. This doesn't sound like Chanel. Are you sure? I ask uncertainly, wiping my eyes. Just don't grieve too long. No one likes a sad sack. That sounds more like Chanel. On that note, in concluding today's lesson is tip 9. Find some fun. Book a holiday. Have a makeover. Spoil yourself rotten. Have something to look forward to, or do whatever gives you a buzz. Which leads me to the next point, she says, reaching into her bag. I've got just the cure. Do you remember my cousin Julie? The pretty one who left her husband and ran off with a surf instructor from Malibu? She did. Oh yes, that was ages ago, a year at least. She's been single since then and having a fantastic time. But we're keen to take our loving offshore and have some European fun. We've already booked, she says, passing me a travel brochure. And the best part is there's room for you. I take the brochure tentatively and thumb through it before returning to the cover page and reading Kentucky for 18 to 35's European Inspiration Tour, 19 days from London to Amsterdam, Berlin, Prague, Munich, Venice, Rome, Florence, Lucerne, Paris and more. I've always wanted to go to Europe. But Kentucky? Don't you think we're getting a little old for this? Don't be silly, Ruby. We're the perfect age. We're 35. We're over 40, Chanel. Don't say the F word, Ruby. It's not polite. Besides, we don't look a day over 30. With our wisdom, experience and mature outlook on life, we know who we are and what we want. We're an asset to the young. We are? Yes, we are. Men love confidence, and confidence comes with experience, which Julie and I have, and you will soon. We've got it all mapped out, and Kentucky is just the company to help us realize our dreams. What dreams, Chanel? I ask nervously. We want sex, she replies matter-of-factly, and lots of it. We do? Absolutely. I read an article in the New York Times the other day that said one of the biggest regrets people had was not having enough sex. That, and not marrying the right person, and you know about that already. I, for one, don't want to die with regrets. Do you, Ruby? I guess not. You guess not? How many lives are you planning to have, darling? Don't be silly, Chanel. Everyone knows you only get one. Not everyone believes that, she corrects me, but for simplicity's sake, let's assume it's true. Do you really want to use yours up, crying over a disloyal prick of a husband, or are you going to join our race? What race? Our race to conquer Europe. Julie and I have set each other a deal. We've got to bonk a guy in every city we go to. The winner gets to have fabulous sex with a bevy of European lovers. And the loser? The loser gets to have sex, only with less strangers. I don't know, Chanel. This sounds a bit desperate and dangerous. I mean, gosh, we're middle-aged, and you already have a head start when it comes to picking up strange men. To be honest, it's not really my thing. Come on, it will be good for you. A fresh start, a chance to sample some of the stuff you've been missing. Maybe have a fling with a younger man. Haven't you heard that old Chinese proverb about being as old as the last guy you screwed? I can't say I have, Chanel. I think we must have read different books. Yes, darling, we have, Chanel says, glaring at Joan Last's novel stuffed under the couch. Think of it as sexual healing, Ruby. The point is to have fun flings, not full-on relationships. Besides, having one-night stands has been scientifically proven to boost your chances of finding love again. Not only do they broaden your sexual repertoire, but they also boost your self-esteem. And let's face it, darling, yours is pretty deflated. So what's to lose? Scientifically proven, I say. Absolutely, 100% guaranteed. Knowing you may never see your conquest again allows you to practice the one thing that will stand you in good sexual stead forever. which is saying what you want in bed. For a moment, I'm sure my breathing has stopped. I know what you're thinking. You're mortified. Have I gone a pale shade of white? I hope my laugh sounds less self-conscious and more, this is going to be so much fun. Grinding your teeth together kind of gave you away, she says, putting her arm affectionately around me. Relax. Believe me, I know. Asking for what you want is the key to a happier life. One night stand's the perfect way to practice. Oh, and newsflash, sex outside of marriage is not a cardinal sin. This is the new millennium, the age of female empowerment, freedom, and choice. Don't waste your life making the wrong ones, my sweet. Life's too short and too precious for that. I do like the idea of getting away, and coming from a family of 7 sisters has instilled a competitive streak in me, but racing to take European men to bed isn't exactly the same as grabbing the last potato at dinner. And everyone knows that European men are a lot less uninhibited. They're bound to want to do it with the light on. I clench my hands over the cushions on the couch. It's a bit of a stretch, Chanel. I mean, it's all right for the 2 of you. You're experienced. I wouldn't know where to start. Gosh, I think I'd fall over if any man other than Jonathan looked at me in an amorous way. I twist my gold wedding band. The divorce isn't finalized yet, and wearing his ring still gives me comfort. It was like a neon sign telling the world someone had picked me. I was wanted. Don't worry, Chanel says. We'll get you up to speed. I'm a life coach after all. Helping people with relationship issues is my specialty. Suddenly I'm more nervous than when Millie tricked me into going on the world's biggest, oldest and most rickety roller coaster. I'm half excited and half out of my mind with fear. Mostly it's fear, I feel, as I say. It all sounds great. When do we start? Feel the fear and go dating anyway, right? Although in Chanel's hands, at least I won't die. Will I? Chapter 2. Midlife Meltdown. Maybe I do need to see a counsellor after all, I say, handing Chanel a tumbler filled with refreshing gin and tonic. It's been a hard week at work and an even harder week personally. I think I'm having a midlife meltdown. I know I've never had one before, so it's also possible it's something else. But, Chanel, tell me what you think. You'll know. I mean, you must have seen this all before. Darling, I'll need more detail to make an accurate diagnosis. She places the tumbler down on the glass coffee table and looks around the room. Now, where did I put my stethoscope? Laughing, she reaches behind the cushions on the couch. I could have sworn I left them right here when I examined my last victim, client. I'm being serious, I say. I walk over to the stereo unit tucked away in the floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and turn the volume down. I don't feel quite myself, I continue, turning to face her. In fact, I feel positively glum. I just feel so confused about everything. Everything? Like what everything? Her lips still smile, but her eyes study me seriously, like who I am and what I'm doing and where my life is going. Oh, that kind of everything. Chanel nods sympathetically. I've been trying to stay positive, like you said. I've been doing the running meditation, religiously in fact, and Snouts quite enjoys it. I end up calling his name so often, trying to coax him away from all the female dogs. His name has become my mantra. Why do dogs have to sniff each other's bums? I'll never know. Anyway, I say, I got rid of all my old wedding photos. I binned a lot of them. Well, not quite binned. They're in storage, but it's close enough, and you were right. It was incredibly freeing. It's just, well, despite all your fabulous tips, I still feel down. What are your symptoms? Hot flushes? Night sweats? Mood swings? Panic attacks? No, nothing like that. Oh, that's good, Chanel says. We can rule out premature menopause then. Oh, God, I've still got that to look forward to, and I'm already depressed and in a bit of a rut. I had my whole life mapped out. I was going to age peacefully into retirement, knowing that I had my man by my side. If he'd told me he wanted more, something different, well, I might have tried to accommodate him. If he'd wanted a mistress, I might have turned a blind eye, like the French do. But divorce? God, no. You've spent your whole marriage accommodating him. You deserve a sufferance medal if you ask me. I know you never liked him, but I did. I loved him, and now I feel such a failure. All of my sisters, all 6 of them, and my parents are still happily married, not a blemish. Then along comes me, the black sheep. My voice began to shake, a blight on the family album ever since I was born. Tears well in my eyes. I can't seem to do anything right, as my parents so frequently remind me, and I feel stupid, so incredibly stupid. Why didn't I see it coming? Surely there would have been signs, lipstick on the collar, weekends away. Jonathan's such a tight ass when it comes to spending money. I'm sure the whole affair probably took place in the laundry cupboard at work. I knew she was trying to use humour to lift my soggy spirits, but I couldn't even manage a smile. I never saw it coming. Never. I begin to tremble, then the floodgates open. For the first time in months, I bawl my eyes out. I wondered when you'd finally crack, she says, putting her arms affectionately around me. Have a good old cry. Better in than out. You've been a pillar of stoicism, keeping all your feelings inside, trapping them beneath all your layers of propriety. I understood, of course. You had Millie to think of, but it's no good keeping your emotions bottled up. That's a surefire way to aid and abet that demon depression. Think about it. Depression. You depressed all those feelings below the surface. No wonder they're breaking free now, and bloody good job. They need a good earring. Then they can jolly well bugger off. Do you think I'm going mad? I sob. I'm so afraid I'm losing my mind. I can't sleep. I eat all the time in some sort of desperate attempt to soothe myself. And now look at me. I look like Mrs. Blob. Miss Blob, I correct myself despondently. You're not going mad. Quite the opposite, really. The biggest mistake people make is thinking they can go around being all jolly all the time. Quite ridiculous, darling. You've just been through a bereavement, for goodness sake, and unlike other people I could name, you took your marriage vows very seriously, literally by the book. That's you, always has been. When the priest said, "Till death do you part," how were you to know that God's will would be undone by United States law and one determined long-legged blonde? Of course you're not naive. You didn't know divorce was possible. After all, 50% of all marriages end up in the divorce courts. It's just that you never thought it would happen to you. Why would you? Not with your family history. Unlike me, my parents separated when I was 1. They never bothered to get married. I guess that must have made things easier when they split, Chanel says bitterly. But hey, we're not here to talk about my messed-up childhood. She smiles brightly, reaches into her bag, and hands me a packet of tissues. We're here to talk about you and your midlife blues. I feel terrible obsessing about my worries. I mean, if you'd rather... Don't be daft. Stop putting other people first. I'd much rather talk about your problems than open the lid on mine. Besides, I'm the life coach. It's my job to listen, and my pleasure, she added. So tell me about this midlife meltdown of yours. It's just, well, I feel so frumpy. Look at me. Look at my hair. I lift a few locks of mousy hair despondently. The fine strands fall limply through my fingers. I see what you mean. Chanel nods. It's definitely not your best look. Sort of bag lady meets Shelley's Theron and Monster. Chanel, I cry. Do you have to be so cruel? Well, you did ask, she replies nonchalantly. Besides, I'm one of your biggest fans, and I wouldn't have said it if I thought you were beyond hope. Gee, thanks. I know that under all that limp, mousy hair there's a gorgeous woman waiting to be rediscovered. Kind of like that sculptor guy. What's his name? You know the one who said he could see an angel in the block of cold marble. His job, he felt, was to set her free. Michelangelo. Ah, yes, that guy. You always were good with names. Oh, can you imagine what that guy's hands would feel like on your skin? Calloused, I imagine. Oh, Ruby, you are melancholic. Michelangelo was an artist, not a labourer. I thought this sort of stuff was your passion. You always loved art at school, and look at this place. It's absolutely crammed with beautiful paintings. What you need is a creative man, someone like Michelangelo, only just not gay. Just imagine the attention he would bestow upon you. Think about him caressing your skin, exploring your body in every minute detail, feeling his way tentatively over every muscle, every bone. every lump of cellulite, I interrupt. Chanel ignores me and continues with her fantasy. Imagine him peppering your body with kisses before bringing you to a shuddering climax. I shift uncomfortably on the couch. He's gay, Chanel, and all this talk makes me feel like some creepy voyeur. But I am curious about where this is heading. How exactly are you and Michelangelo going to help me break free? For starters, darling, this has to go, she says, reaching over and lifting some strands of my hair. Chop it. All of it. But it's taken me years to get it this long. I place a protective hand over my head and slide it through the ends. Years to end up with long, thin, mousy hair? I don't know why you bothered. It only makes you look old. Chanel wasn't the most predictable of characters, but one thing I could rely on Chanel for was her honesty, and she wasn't failing me now. It was tough to hear, but I need someone strong to motivate me into action. I start to feel excited and nervous about what she might suggest I do. Chanel has always been a bit of a glamour queen, in an out there, outrageous kind of way. Perhaps not in the style that I might want to emulate, I think, as I look at her flaming orange hair. She often wears it piled high onto her head and twisted into a top knot. Her fringe is cut short so that it almost reaches her hairline. A blonde peroxide skunk-like stripe runs through the middle of it. I get up and walk over to the mirror, which hangs over the mantelpiece, and study my reflection in the mirror. Drab, drab, drab. I guess you have a point, I say, turning to her, but no persimmon orange. God, no, darling. Orange on you would be terrible. I wouldn't dream of it. She picks up one of Millie's fashion magazines, which is sprawled over the coffee table. She licks her forefinger and thumbs quickly through the glossy pages. What about this? She asks, lifting the magazine and pointing to English actress Sienna Miller. Jude Law porked his kid's nanny and she did a bobbit. She didn't cut off his penis, which in my book she should have, but she did cut off her hair, and now look at her. The press loves her, and her career's never been healthier, Chanel says. To be honest, I preferred her hair longer. Is there anything a bit less severe looking? I wasn't quite ready for hair that barely touched the top of my ears. Chanel points to a photo of the singer Faith Hill sporting a new layered bob. Oh, I quite like that, I say, beginning to get enthusiastic. Did her man jilt her too? No. Her hair was so badly frizzled she was left with no option. Chanel studies my hair intensely. Yours is pretty frizzled too, Ruby. It's stress. It's hardly surprising. You've had 2 major stresses, make that 3 in the space of 1 year. Impending divorce, moving house, change of financial circumstances. Oh, and career, so that's 4. I'm amazed your hair hasn't dropped off completely. I look at her with horror. Oh, you don't think it's going to, do you? I could see it now, bald, fat and single for the rest of my days. Not if we act fast and give it the chop. How about a combo? Let's blend a little bit of Meg Ryan's tousled just got out of bed hair, Faith Hill's sleek and sexy, and Sienna Miller's blonde bombshell. Me? Blonde? I can't imagine it. I'll look like mutton dressed as lamb. Not a chance. Not with me as your creative director. I threw her a dubious look. Striped stockings, orange cardigan, mauve skirt. Okay, so they were all designer labels, but subtle Chanel wasn't. She looks more like an impressionist painting. A riot of colour clashing in an orgasmic symphony. I know what you're thinking, but just because I dress like this doesn't mean I'm going to create a clone. This is my signature look, my brand, darling, my statement. My je ne sais quoi, my DNA. She threw her hands around her as she spoke. All right, I get it. It's you. Secretly, I envy the way she lives her life with colour. She knew how to wear clothes that suited her personality. I couldn't think of many people who could throw together such an eclectic array of clothing, like a person throwing together a salad with whatever was on hand, and pull it off. Yes, darling, 150% me. I wouldn't replicate me for all the tea in China. Not even for you, Ruby-Doo, she says, giving me a hug. Now, get dressed and get ready to have 10 years knocked off your dial. Where are we going? Kenneth Amour, style queen and hairdresser to the stars.